Welcome to our February Board of Education meeting. Please rise to the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Pauletta Fryas.
Here.
Judy Boucher.
Here.
John Crean.
Here.
Scott Latham.
Here.
Brian Tobin.
Here.
In the event of an emergency, visitors are advised that they may exit this room from the one side door which leads directly into the parking lot. In the event of an emergency, everyone is asked to move away from the building. Do not attempt to leave in your automobiles, since this may cause traffic problems and block incoming emergency vehicles.
Thank you, Patty. The first item on our agenda is the first hearing of visitors. At this time, we request that questions and comments be kept to only agenda items. Does anyone care to address the board at this time? Okay. That brings us to our consent agenda, which includes, approval of the minutes of our regular meeting of January 25th. It also includes our financial matters, which are the schedule of our bills, not the treasury report, that'll be available in March, the monthly budget status report, transfers, extra classroom activity fund, and we're going to accept a donation. The Forever 5 Foundation and Randy and Barbara Ann Frankel are donating a baseball scoreboard along with steel, labor, and costs associated with the installation. We're surplusing some stuff, machines, laminators, clocks, scoreboards, and there are some CSEs also included in the consent agenda. Is there a motion to accept the consent agenda? Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Old business, Dr. Morrow?
So we had the lighting inspector from Southold came out and met with us, and we walked around, and it was a very enlightening meeting with him. He was very he was very well versed in everything, obviously, and there was a very clear understanding between meeting the lighting requirements and also keeping our parking lots and facilities and buildings safe. And I think he was very reasonable. He asked us to make some modifications, which we've already started to do. He went into the fact that that the lighting requirements can be superseded for safety reasons. And we met with him at 6 o'clock at night when we had activities going on and it was dark out. So we were able to walk through the parking lot with cars coming and going and the buildings. And like I said, he was very, very reasonable. It was our architect was with us, and so was Mr. Dragon, myself, Bill Metz was also with us. And as I said, it was a very fruitful meeting, and we've already started. What we'll do is, once we're done, we were cited by the town. Once we are done making the modifications that he requested us make, he's going to come back with us and take another look and then do different measurements. And he believes what he recommended will satisfy. If not, then we'll look to make, additional modifications. But I thought it was really a very beneficial meeting in that, you got real answers on exactly what you needed to do, and we had good conversations about what we can and can't do. We can't shut everything down with cars coming and going and kids walking across parking lots and things like that. And so it was a
Are
good
all
meeting.
the modifications the district's responsibility, or some of them LIPA's responsibility?
The interesting part is the LIPA ones, which are probably the lightest ones out there, he felt were absolutely necessary for safety reasons.
Interesting.
And I did share with him that was part of a safety inspection.
That's what I thought.
He said that, they may eventually ask for that from us, so that, because in the safety inspection, I read it was from about 4 or 5 years before I got here, but it suggested that we have better lighting in our
Yeah.
parking lots, because it was not as safe as they would like it to be. And then I guess the district contacted LIPA, and they said, we'll put up lights, and that's where the four brightest lights we have outside are LIPA lights. Now, they put them up for us, and I do believe that the cost of utilizing them is borne by us, right? I think it's on our bill, if I remember correctly. There's like one line for like exterior lighting. They maintain them, they come and change them, they do all of that type of stuff. But Those ones, in speaking with him, he did ask that we reach out to LIPA and see if they can vise them so that they don't shoot out off property and they
Put
shoot
shields
straight
on
down.
them?
Yeah. They call them visors, we call them shields, and we've already done that with LIPA, but he did believe that those lights were necessary for safety. And one of them was actually out, and you could see, he even said you should really get that fixed,
So when a light is out like that, then it's LIPA's responsibility
Yes.
to come back, not ours.
Yeah, we contacted LIPA, we didn't realize it was out.
And that came about, if I recall correctly, as a result, as you say, of a safety study that was done that was state requirement, if I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken.
I think so.
Yeah, that I
It
don't.
was part of
it
a, yeah, I think it was
It was
part
part
of
of
a
the state
requirement.
Might have
requirement.
been. It was before my time, but I have the study in the files in my office, and I read it, and
So if something is requested by the state for safety reasons on school property, does that supersede what town code might say?
it depends on who you ask and about what.
That's what I thought.
And what it comes down to is really kind of the way our judiciary system works. Whatever the last decision was, and the last decision said that lighting code is town. Now, with that being said, the next decision might say that lighting code is state, and then it goes back to them. What our enforcement officer was good about was, he understands that we are obligated to comply with certain state safety guidelines, and he was reasonable within them. He was, he understands that we serve two masters, and that in some cases, the two masters might tell you two different things. So he understood that. And we also understand the town of Southold is a wonderful partner to us. We partner in many different areas with them. And, we want to comply with everything they want us to comply with, as long as we can safely do it for our community and our kids, and our teachers and everybody who's, every employee that's coming here. And they're very, very reasonable about that. They understand that's what we want to do, and they will work with us within that.
Thank you for that. Superintendent's report. It's you again.
Yeah, so yesterday, we had 3 Southold Police Department officers and 1 Homeland Security officer from Suffolk County who came out and did a safety and security audit with us. We started with about an hour of Q&A in my office where they asked us everything about response times and whether we have generators that kick in and all sorts of different things. And then we did a physical interior and exterior tour of both buildings. And within probably 3 to 4 weeks, and this is a free assessment that they do for school districts. It's taken about a month to get it all booked, and then we finally did it yesterday. And, Anthony Jagone was with us, and we walked around everything, and, there was no lighting, it was during the day, so that was not a focus. We explained to him about what we're doing with all that. This was, cameras, entryways, exitways, and preliminary, he said we're in fairly good shape, but he said there are absolutely recommendations he can make. Some of them he made immediately and said, you might want to look into this. One of the primary ones that we already are looking into is the blue light system. We don't have a blue light system here. You see them at schools more and more frequently. You always saw them at colleges. But what it does is when there is a lockdown or an emergency or things like that, there are blue lights on the outside of the building and then in large gathering areas like your cafeteria and your auditorium, because frequently announcements to lock down or to shelter in place or things, they're not heard in those areas. So the blue light indicates to everybody. You have traveling teachers that might come from the elementary, they're half-day elementary, half-day secondary, and they come walking over. And we had an armed gunman in one of my neighborhoods in a building I was in prior. Luckily, he ditched the gun in the woods when he came through to our property. But we had locked down at the police's request, and I had a reading teacher standing outside banging on the door. Now, luckily, the gentleman didn't have a gun, and the police kind of grabbed him and all, but had he been somebody looking to do some harm, one of my teachers, we didn't have the blue light system then, we put it in about 6 months later, didn't see anything that would mean to her, hey, don't come here. And then she went to swipe in, the swipe didn't work because they're deactivated during a lockdown, and she was standing outside in harm's way. So that, he gave us a lot of different little things like that. There's other things he indicated about where we put cameras and all. So he'll give us a full report, and I'll share it with the board once we get it. But we did that yesterday, and it was, it was an interesting experience. I've read them many times and I've seen them. But I've never actually walked around and did one, and, he asked a lot of questions, and, even just things with, he suggested we put barriers up like we do. We put barriers up in certain places, and he said, natural barriers, like cement benches on the outside of where our elementary playground is. He said, not necessarily because someone through malice wants to drive onto your playground, but like they have a medical emergency and they hit the gas, they're going to go driving where if you have a nice cement bench there, they're never going past it. Their car is stopping there, and different barriers in front of like our electrical box that's down by the elementary. And so it was interesting, and I'm looking forward to seeing his report.
Will you share the report with the board when you get it,
Absolutely.
please?
As soon as it comes in.
Maybe there's some grants available for some of those things
He's
that they
going to send me a
recommended as well.
link to numerous grants
That'd be
for
great.
different things that he said would be available, cameras and all. He went over, he didn't tell us the grant sites, but he told me he would send me a link or put them in the report. But he said there is grant money available for much of this.
Right.
That's great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
Does that conclude your report? Patty, that concludes your report, right?
Yes, it does.
The personnel's all the same, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
nothing new.
Okay, I just wanted to check before I went through. Okay, so we have some personnel recommendations from the superintendent. Entering the district full-time permanent, Mark Saylor, who will be our network and systems technician. He's beginning February 27th. Entering the district part-time temporary, Mary Alice Doyle, who will be our part-time interim treasurer at a per diem rate. Some spring coaching positions, boys varsity baseball, Greg Tully, boys varsity assistant baseball, Rich Pisicano, boys junior high baseball, Gordon Cox, girls varsity softball, Amanda Grazzano, girls JV softball, Alexis Reed, girls junior high softball, Alex Sinclair, boys varsity tennis, Andrew Sadowski, boys JV tennis, Jamie Chereau, boys junior high tennis, Jeff Ellis, girls varsity specialty track, Tim McCardle, boys varsity specialty track, Joe Corrado, girls JV track, Bill Heine, boys junior high track, John Palmieri, and girls junior high track, Pete Salerno. May I have a motion to accept the superintendent's recommendations?
So moved. Second.
All in favor? Aye. School calendar. Did anybody want to discuss the school calendar for the 2023-24 school year, or are we good to go? They made that change for the January conference day.
Yeah, what was it? It was,
It was like, I think, the
It
4th
was on a
or
Wednesday,
5th
we
or
moved it to
whatever.
a Friday.
yeah, so you pushed it out a little bit.
It actually made it on the Friday of Martin
And
Luther
it's like
King
weekend,
weekend, which
yeah,
is
which
nice
makes
for the
sense.
families,
Yes,
too.
we decided, for our 10-month employees, for our CSEA members that are not in on those days, and for our community.
It'd be better to make it.
Yeah,
If you're
but
gonna
even in
do
the
it.
middle of the week makes it a little more difficult. This,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Kids get a 4-day weekend now, which for some people, they'll
do
not
something.
And
like it, and for others, they'll like it.
The
But,
calendar's always tricky, because I
yeah.
know we try and align it with the BOCES calendar, which we can't always keep it aligned. And Juneteenth became a requirement this past year, so that there was another day in the calendar that you have to make up somewhere.
Yes.
All right, without objections, is there a motion to approve the 2023-2024 school calendar?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Patty, could you make sure it gets on the website so parents can have it? Because I know they plan ahead. And they won't ask on Facebook. Okay, the seniors are looking to go away to Florida from April 27th to April 30th. The students will miss 2 days of school. This is a trip that is funded by the students and not the district, right?
Yes, it is.
Yes, I just always like to mention that. Is there a motion to approve the senior trip to the Florida Keys, April 27th through the 30th?
So moved.
Second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
So we're going to have a new position to the district. I'm happy to report it will not cost the taxpayers salary or benefits, right?
Nothing at all.
We're going to have a therapy,
Water,
so just
it'll cost
treats and
water and treats, yeah.
and lots of pets. I'm going to read this resolution. We're going to have a therapy dog part of Southold School District. Be it resolved that the Board of Education hereby authorizes the utilization and placement of therapy dogs on the premises of Southold Schools from Therapy Dogs of Long Island to provide mental health support and comfort for the students and staff of the district. And be it further resolved that the administration is directed to establish appropriate procedures for the care of such dogs while on school property. Is there a motion to accept the resolution?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Finance Committee report, Judy.
No report.
Building Committee report.
No report.
Policy Committee report.
No report.
New business.
I have a new business.
Go.
It's come to my attention that girls lacrosse is going to be practicing and playing predominantly here at Southold. I would just like to ask the superintendent and the AD to look into the potential of renting some temporary lighting for the field for the first couple of weeks of the season, because based on the end of the soccer season, the girls and the boys here were playing in the dark, and it
At
was,
least we set the lights back a little bit or ahead earlier now in March than it used to be.
Right.
I think it's the second week in March.
okay.
So that's very helpful, I think,
Yeah,
now, too,
it'll,
compared
you
to how
know,
it used to be a
but
few years back.
The AD and Dr. Morrow can kind of figure out how long we need to rent them for, but I just think, for a safety reason, we don't want these kids playing on the field and the sun go down, and, you know, getting hit with a soccer ball is quite different than getting hit with a lacrosse ball, so.
That would be something, if we do, we would have to agree to split the expense too, correct?
Yeah,
We have to agree to what?
to split the expense with the other
With the
schools
district.
involved. It's a shared sport, so.
So,
Thank you. Before we get to our second hearing of visitors, I'm just going to mention the next board meetings now for anybody that's taking notes. March 1st is our first budget meeting, March 8th is followed by our second budget meeting, and March 22nd is our regular meeting. At this time, we will entertain any comments and questions about agenda items or school matters in general. And if you're going to ask about the budget, we haven't gotten the budget yet, so we don't know the answers to the questions about the budget, because it's not budget season yet. If you want to address the board, please come up to the microphone and state your name. Hi, Jess.
Hi, Jessica Michaels. I just was really curious about the lighting citation. Was that because of a complaint, you
Yes.
think? Did you foil the complaint?
No, they came and spoke to us about
Oh, the Dark Sky Coalition?
Yes.
Okay,
They
okay.
came
I
to,
just,
they
I
came
was
to a
just
public
curious.
meeting
Couple
or
of
two.
meetings.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Thanks.
Probably find it on YouTube somewhere, Jess. I think it was last,
January and April.
there you go.
it twice.
Yeah. And we tried to explain the safety, how it all came about. Mm-hmm,
Yeah.
yeah. Anyone else?
I'm glad they're here.
Well, it's time for anybody that wants to speak before we close the meeting.
Hi, I'm Marta Thomas. So we've been talking about adding the second language, and I just have a little list today that some of the other moms had sent with different ideas of how we could possibly implement a second language. So I'll just kind of
You'll
read.
share this with Mrs. O'Neill as well, right?
Say again?
You'll share this with Mrs. O'Neill at the elementary school?
Sure.
Okay.
Yep.
I think it's important that she be in the loop, because she's
Yes.
she's the decision,
Yes.
part of the decision, of
Yep.
course.
So just to kind of have some of our ideas, and I will email into this, and some other, a few different moms had shared some of these ideas. So the first one we have is, could we have the Spanish being taught 2 times a week as a full immersion class? It seems that at least one of the teachers in first grade was trying to teach their kids for sight words, showing it pictures on a screen, and then the kids doing music and different things to learn it. So we're just trying to think of ideas of, I think it had been brought up at the first meeting, how would we do it? How would we make it fun for the younger kids? So that was just one of the ideas if we followed suit of that. Another thought was, are any of the current teachers bilingual? If so, could we have any of them do a special in a second language, or teaching Spanish right in the classroom that way? So if any, I don't know, I know my daughter's kindergarten teacher is not. So anyhow, if any of the non-ESL teachers are already bilingual, we could maybe use them a little bit. Another choice we had was, or somebody suggested, allowing parents to choose between second language or a special. So if we were finding it difficult on how we would add it, or finding the time to add it. It would be, maybe it's gonna come to, if you could choose between language and music or language and art. I don't know what the difference really is between kindergartners per se and sixth graders, where you would find how that flows. But I know for myself as a parent, if you said, okay, do you want your daughter to do this or this, I would pick the second language and give up one of the other things. Okay, the other thing was, somebody suggested that, or stated that last year, their daughter was in first grade and they were able to sit with the other kids, the Latino kids, for their lessons with the ESL teacher. And that is not happening, I don't think, this year. So I don't know if you knew anything about that? Okay, so it was in the elementary school.
We do have RENL teachers routinely push into classrooms
Okay,
and work with their students and also support their students within the context of an entire class. But I also think it's very important to understand that an ENL teacher is not a bilingual ed or Spanish teacher. Many of our ENL teachers on Long Island and in Southold don't speak a foreign language.
yeah, I knew
Because
that.
their training and their job is to teach kids to learn English as a new language. Now, for instance, in Southold, we're a little, homogeneous in the languages we have, but in a typical district like my last one, we had 16 languages. Nobody speaks 16 languages. Many of the teachers don't speak a foreign language because, again, their training and their teaching is about English language acquisition, the BICS and the KELP between the academic language and the basic language that you need to survive. And, so it's sometimes like there's a lot of people, myself included, at the beginning that felt, oh, they're an ENL teacher, great, they speak another language. That was my belief before I learned a lot about it. So it's important for people to understand that that is not what an ENL teacher, many of them, they can speak some broken languages. Some of them can speak many different pieces of a lot of different languages, but not in a way that they can teach one. So, so it's just something that's important to keep in mind.
So I'm not sure how that, because I think Scott had mentioned that his daughter got to sit with the other kids and learn. Did you mention that at one of the meetings? So somehow, I don't know if that was, she had extra time, but I know it was happening last year, in the first grade here. So I don't know if we could find out, maybe we could ask Mrs. O'Neill, why were those students, why did they have the extra time and why were they chosen? And obviously, maybe it was with Mrs. Leonard, who speaks Spanish, like somehow they were picking up some kind of Spanish. It wasn't only in English at that point. My other question was, which I was interested in, and to see if you were interested in, what if we asked Cutchogue or one of the other adjoining schools if they could share with us like a video of them teaching a second language to their students? Like, would you have any interest in seeing that if we were able to get that? Because I know we had talked on how they would teach it. Like, I don't, I just thought if we had something, maybe we could show it here, just this is what they're doing.
Now, when you say Cutchogue, I got feedback from a lot of superintendents. I'm meeting with Mrs. O'Neill because she got feedback from a lot of principals. And then I also have the sheet that you guys gave me that I read straight through, much of which matched up a little bit, not completely, which is always the way it is, That's,
Yep.
But when you say a video from Manatuck Cutchogue, are they doing something specifically that we perceive as really good? Like, some of the models that were, some of them were they do an after-school club for foreign language, and that's it. That's their elementary foreign language program that they list that they have. And they do have it for kids that sign up to come to it after school. And that's the extent.
I
Others
didn't
do
know
lessons
anything
every
about them
day.
specifically.
Okay.
So it could be, we do Greenport, we do Shelter Island. I was just thinking to see like, what does it really
And
look
it really
like?
varies greatly. Like, there were some districts that have 2 ENL teachers, 2 foreign language teachers on the elementary level. There are some that offer multiple languages. And they're looking to add a third in one school, And it also is, it's a difficult, like, when we say foreign language, to me, we offer 2 foreign languages here in the high school. Which one do we offer if we're going to offer a foreign language, in the elementary school? Do we make it a, hey, learn for a year about foreign languages and make a choice, kind of like what we do with our older kids? So there's a lot of questions to it. Very few elementaries offer more than one. There was only 1 or 2 There was one that told me they're trying to offer a second, and then there was one that was trying to offer a third. But it's it's not common. You don't get a lot in schools, period. Like it used to be, there was 4 or 5 languages in every high school when I first started teaching, and that doesn't really exist anymore. It was typical that you had German, French, Spanish, Latin was one, and then American Sign Language. So it wasn't uncommon in a bigger high school to have 5.
Yeah, I think from, even when I graduated, it was just the 2, and I think I wanted to take German, and we were gonna watch Matituck do it on the TVs that they had, and then for whatever reason, it didn't happen. So it was
Looking
really
at a
just,
school to see what they do.
yeah, I was just thinking for the younger kids to see if we were like seeing the 3rd graders, how much were they really speaking of another language. I just thought that'd be interesting. So I don't know, I have a feeling they might say they might not be able like to show the kids and like share that.
A lot of reasons, yeah.
Yeah.
to say no. So I don't know the answer to it.
Okay.
If it were something that we would deem beneficial in our looking at it, and this is again after, Dr. Crane mentioned last time, like, we have to figure out how to fit it. And these are good ideas, and, some of them I don't know if they're possible or not, like giving options. If there's anybody that chooses one and anybody that chooses the other, then you have to offer both options anyway. So that makes it very difficult finance-wise and time-wise to be able to do both, because you now have to offer both, even though you're offering both to half, and, but we can certainly look at it. And,
Okay.
And, like we said last time, we'll look at anything, if we get to a point where it can fit and it's financially feasible, and then we really need to start looking at what the model is. And that would be when we really want to either go to, frequently we go to other places and watch them, and,
Okay.
you notice, I hope your kids tell you that the food is starting to get a little bit better in our cafeterias. We went to 2 different school districts, and we visited in their cafeterias, and we spoke to their nutritionists, and then we met with our food service and said, these are things we're seeing go on, and then, to their credit, they were very positive, and, they're baking biscuits now that I smell in the morning, and they're doing all sorts of things that didn't really happen for a while. So that's kind of the model that we do follow, is we go in. I don't know if people allow us to tape in their rooms. Actually, I'm pretty sure they wouldn't.
Yeah.
But they.
It was an idea,
they
but
will
then I was like,
frequently allow
probably
us
because
to
the
come
kids
in
couldn't
and,
share it. Yeah.
They will allow us to come in and watch at times. And that, that's a common collegial type of activity that we try to engage in when we're looking at, adding things.
Okay. I'm just, okay, I think that's it
Thank you.
for my suggestions. Okay, thank
Thank
They're
you.
good suggestions and ones that we can use.
Thank you. Does anybody else care to address the board? No? No? Okay. Last time. All right, that brings us to our board member commentary. Hi, Mr. Mullen, how's it going down there?
Good, you?
Very good, thank you.
So, as of last week, we held our Soho Olympics event, in which we allowed anyone in the district to sign up, and we held it later in the evening in the gym, which we played a variety of sports such as volleyball, hockey, and basketball. And we had that whole tournament, and the only requirement was that you brought a can of food to donate to CAST. So we brought that to the CAST, and then upcoming we have our dance we planned, our semi-formal dance, which will be March 3rd. We figured out the date, and it'll be in the gym. And we are trying to get a photo booth and decorations to make it fit the red carpet theme we picked. And yeah, that's about it.
Good for you. Thank you. Have a good vacation next week. Right?
Thank you, you
There's no
too.
school next week?
No school next week
School next week.
for kids.
Mr. Latham.
I get to come in.
Mr. Latham?
Nothing.
Oh, Dr. Crane? Mr. Tobin? Mrs. Fouché?
Just a quick question, when is the play?
It's in,
anybody know when the
it's
plays
in
are?
March. Something like that.
March 10th, 11th, okay.
Something like that.
March?
10th, 11th, 12th, for the high school play.
Thank you. I know I'll get an email about it, but I'm like,
Yeah.
I need to know that. Okay, so that's what I have to say. I'm looking forward because it's becoming my favorite time of year, which is play, robotics, and concerts, and we hear all about, aside from sports, we hear all about ROTC stuff and everything. This is like the fun time of year for the high school part of it.
So
So.
one second.
I'm saying it. You're done.
Yeah, let him go.
No, I'm going to make him feel bad. I want to congratulate the girls' basketball team on their big win yesterday.
Oh.
And Mr. Tobin, I was waiting for him to say, because his daughter's on the team, and it was a great game against Mattituck, and, sorry.
They're playing again on.
Got me.
They're playing next Tuesday at noon
It's
at
Santa Mauritius.
At Santa Mauritius, or at St., is it neutral? At Santa Mauritius?
I think it's at Mauritius.
Is it Santa Mauritius? Anyway, congratulations to Megan and that team. Sorry. I don't want you to get in trouble when you get home.
I won't.
Again, the next board meetings are March 8th, March 1st and March 8th are budget hearings, budget meetings. March 22nd is our next regular meeting. We do need a motion to go back into executive session.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.